Hey, welcome back to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but we want to give a shout out to our two podcast partners, the Global Community of Women in High School Sports and We Coach. These are two great organizations that you really, really need to be a part of. So check out We Coach and the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. Now let's have a quick word from our sponsors. We want to thank Sideline Interactive Indoor Scoring Tables and Video Boards for their support. You've heard me say before that we have a Sideline Interactive Indoor Score Table in our gym, and it's just fantastic. If you want to improve your game day experience, highlight student athletes during the game, excite the crowd, and increase your budget through sponsorship, you really need to check out Sideline Interactive. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. In addition to the great products, they have lifetime tech support. They have a buy now, pay later, including free financing. So go to sidelineinteractive.com, raise money for your department, and create the ultimate game day experience. We also want to thank our friends at Snap Mobile. Go to snapraise.com and check out their entire suite of platforms designed to help you as an athletic director do your job better. SnapRaise is the fundraising platform. We've used it, and it's just fantastic. And they've helped schools just like yours raise over $700 million. They even have a program where you can get your funding before you actually start your fundraiser. Does anybody else have that? Check out Snap Connect for your parent connections. Snap Manage will help you build an entire website. Snap Store allows you to order and sell custom spirit gear for everybody in your program. And you'll find it all at snapraise.com. That's snapraise.com. We also want to thank Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating world-class content for their school's social media channel. You can do it in seconds, and you don't need any experience. So easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com and tell them you heard about it on the podcast. Use our code ADPOD10 and get 10% off. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing. Hometown's recently acquired Ticket Spicket, and together they're going to do an even better job of providing your schools with event management, software solutions, and more. Right now, go to hometownticketing.com. They'll show you how to set up and sell your tickets online. They'll show you how to scan the attendees, collect the revenue, and every step of the way, you'll have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support. That's every step of the way. Hometown will also show you how to sell tickets for things like school dances, your school plays and concerts, even graduation. You'll find it all at hometownticketing.com. Simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to thank our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. You know, they're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school's record boards for all your sports, or to display your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. They're going to help you recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present, and showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com for more information. We want to thank Huddle. Go to huddle.com. Over 200,000 teams use Huddle to help their athletes perform better. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. And they've got the tools to help your teams, your coaches, and your athletes play at their highest level. Huddle is going to provide a complete solution with a professional grade analysis, and you'll find it all at huddle.com. At Huddle, we believe in sports, and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. We also want to say thanks to Final Forms, the industry leader in forms and registration, but they are so much more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility. And they've got reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that come when you have an athlete in the house. Final Forms can help your coaches with things like attendance and communication with their families. And for you as an AD, Final Forms can help with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. You know, it's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. At my schools, we use surveys for just about everything, for teachers, for coaches, for parents, and for student athletes. And the information that came back was almost always over the top positive, and it'll be the same for you. But surveys also allow you to identify those small problems that 2% are going to raise and keep them from turning into a big problem because you didn't know about it, because you didn't do a survey. Go to athleticsurveys.com or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your student athletes or your parents, you're really missing out. Talk to the pros at Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great.
When is this going to air?
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We are visiting with a good friend, Suzanne Vick. She's a certified master athletic administrator. Suzanne and I met virtually during the pandemic, and she's one of the original contributors to Wednesday Wisdom. So I think this is probably her fourth time. She's a very successful athletic director at her school, Curtis High School, in her district up in the state of Washington. Also very active on the state and the national level. She co-presented a great workshop at this year's NADC. And we've got her back on Wednesday Wisdom. So, Suzanne, welcome back and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year to you. It was so great to actually officially meet you at this year's conference instead of just being virtual friends. It's been great to get to know you at conference a little bit, and I'm super happy to be here.
Oh, absolutely. You and I were talking before we recorded here, how cool that was. Well, you're still a working AD, so I know you're very busy. Let's go and get started. We, meaning the podcast, we just started a new weekly series. Right now, we're calling it All-Star ADs. It's featuring 10 women athletic administrators from the state of Florida talking about the issues that affect all of us as athletic directors, but from a woman's perspective. And, you know, you've got, I think, a very, I don't know if it's unique, but you have a very impressive athletic background. And I thought it would be cool to have you share with our listeners. So if you don't mind, kind of take our listeners through your athletic experience. How did it start? Maybe take us up through those college years. And then we can talk about, the teaching and the coaching. But, let's dive into the Suzanne Vick story.
You bet. Well, I grew up playing sports. My dad was my coach, did, I think, what everybody probably did 40, 50 years ago. You just kind of jump from sport to sport to sport versus there was not really the specialization. So we just kind of did everything. I was a 4-sport athlete in high school. I played 2 years of soccer, 2 years of basketball, 3 years of softball, 3 years of volleyball. At the time, there weren't very many opportunities for soccer. I was probably better at soccer at the time, but there weren't very many opportunities to go on and play at the next level unless I wanted to go to the East Coast, and I didn't. And so I chose volleyball instead of soccer and went on and played volleyball in college at Eastern Washington. But one of the things really significant, and I remember my parents talking about it because I was in that Title IX era when it started, and our boys' teams were treated very differently. Our boys' teams were taken care of. Their fields were set up, their gyms were set up, and the girls had to go set up their field and raise money to get their uniforms. And it was a really interesting situation. But my dad coached at a neighboring school, and he was up on what was going on, and he coached girls soccer and saw what the boys were getting versus what the girls were getting. And he was pretty loud in that space at the time, and then also pressed in on the school that I was attending to work towards equal treatment for the female athletes. And and funding and all of that stuff. So I got to kind of see it from the ground up when I was younger. And then one of the experiences I had in college, because it didn't really necessarily go away. And I'll share a little bit later that some of our athletes don't feel like it's gone away. And we won the Big Sky Conference my senior year. Got to go play University of Hawaii in the national tournament. It was amazing experience. 2 years later, Eastern's football team won the Big Sky Conference, and all of those boys got championships rings. And it was 2 years later that I got the email that said, hey, because you won the Big Sky 2 years ago, we're going to buy you rings. And, what name do you want on it? And what do you want it to look like? And it was really interesting because we would have never gotten rings if the boys hadn't won the championship. But it was important for those boys to get their championship ring. And so therefore they had to kind of retro the girls teams that they just decided didn't need them. So it was a really like, wow, okay, that's where we're at. So that's kind of that. And then I've coached high school, and now I'm here doing this.
I'm going to make a guess, and hopefully I'm wrong, but on the rings, hopefully it was an administrator that, looked back and was doing it from an altruistic perspective. I'm guessing there might have been a phone call from someone saying, there's going to be a, Office of Civil Rights, visitor if, this inequity isn't addressed. But, at least retroactively, they did reach out. But
absolutely. And I don't remember how it all went down, but I thought, why 2 years later are you, and then it was like, oh, ding, ding. So, we hadn't arrived at that point, and I still think that there's spaces that we need to improve upon, and some of it is our own mentality. Like, we have to get over ourselves and be great because we can.
Now, let's go and jump into as an athletic administrator right now, and you're not, you're very active in your district and your league, obviously. What are some things that you do from an educational standpoint with your coaches, whether it's during hiring or, just to, maintain that, all the programs, boys, girls, varsity, JV, however it's split up, are being treated equally?
It's a challenge. It's a battle. And, what's interesting is, no matter what you do to the best of your ability, people only have their perceptions. And so you just do the best you can, because there's sometimes people will say things and I'm like, what? Like, that's not accurate. That's not right. That's not what we're doing. Please come and talk to me. And so some of it's just perception. We do in all of our interview process, when we're hiring, especially for our female sports, ask a question, not verbatim, but something to the effect of, typically the underrepresented gender feels XYZ. What are your plans to make sure that doesn't happen? And so really getting an idea from our potential coaches, how they plan to help our female athletes thrive inside their space. So that's one thing that we do. And then we talk a lot in our coaches meetings about getting out of our success in a silo. We want to, we have a pretty good athletic program. Like, we do really good things, but they have tended to stay inside their silos. But when I started these girls and women in sports meetings, it's been so fun because the track athletes are realizing how much similarities they have with the swimmers. It's almost identical. The training's almost identical. It's just water versus a track, and the times and the pressure that puts on them, and the start, and like those kind of things. And so it's been really fun to get them. Sorry about that. Still working.
No worries.
Radio off. If when they get inside these meetings, their silos just busted open, and they're having so much fun connecting with athletes that they had no idea about girls wrestling or softball or track or basketball. Like, it's been magic to watch that happen.
Again, you and I have talked about this before, but share with our listeners, because this is a newer initiative that you've started. Maybe talk about how it got started and how it's grown and continuing to grow.
You bet. So one of the things I think I made an assumption as a female AD, they're just going to know that I care about them. They're just going to know that I've got their back and that's really valuable to me. But I had a young lady come and talk to me at the end of last year. She wanted to leave a legacy at Curtis, and she felt like this was a space that she could help do that. And we together collectively created a plan of what can we do this year, your senior year, to really drive home the fact that girls and women in sports are powerful. They should be supported, and that no one can make you feel a certain way unless you let them. And so we kind of dreamed about what that would look like. We have and trying to make it into something that I could manage. So that's the hard part about an AD. When you take on an initiative, can you maintain it? Can you manage it? If you do too much, you're just like, oh, that's just going to go by the wayside. So we decided one time a month. So we meet the first Wednesday of every month. We met this last Wednesday in the new year. And so this, I believe, was our fifth meeting that we've had. And then we're leading up into a Girls and Women in Sports event on February 6th that they are helping plan. I'm pretty excited about that, but it has, it's kind of morphed and we get together. We started this year doing a late start. So every Wednesday we have a late start for an hour. And so the girls that are choosing to come are choosing to come. Like they got to get up. They could sleep that extra hour. So that in itself, the girls have really talked about, like, I'm here with people that want this information. They're not stuck in a class where everybody had to be there. Like they chose to be into this space. So that's kind of how it got started. And I've like kind of, I don't know, not really titled it, but it's the year of the girl at Curtis High School. Our girls sports are crushing it. And it's just been so fun to see how well they're doing, how well they're being supported and supporting each other. So that's been pretty cool.
Wow. How has this maybe changed your perspective a little bit, or maybe your coach's perspective on, like you said, you think you're doing a good job, but then, you have a conversation with a coach or a parent, or in this case, a kid, and all of a sudden your eyes are opened. What are some different ways that, somebody like you who is on it, how have your eyes been opened a little bit from this so far? Because I know you're just getting started with it.
The biggest thing that came out in our last Girls and Women in Sports meeting is how powerless my female athletes feel, how they feel their voice doesn't matter. That's been it's been ringing in my head. Anytime I'm thinking about it, I'm like, your voice matters. And how can I convince you that that's the case? And so we spend a lot of time talking about that, but we, lady named Gloria Odell, she's our first female PE teacher, first female coach at Curtis High School. She's 92 years old. She still lives in our community. She came and spoke to our girls in December. And it was as if we had reversed. And Title IX wasn't a thing, but back then in 1940, when she's teaching and coaching, when Title IX is not a thing, it was as if it had existed. Like girls were asking her questions like when you talk, did people listen to you? Well, did they take your suggestions into consideration? And Gloria, and she's Spitfire. Oh my gosh, she's amazing. She's like, of course they listened to me. They didn't have a choice. And our girls were like shocked. So they're giving power away to somebody, to the male athletes, to somebody. And I'm really working with them to realize, like, you don't give your power away. Don't give your voice away. Your voice matters. And it's been insightful to me to realize maybe a little bit about how insecure they are The other thing that girls have tended to do, at least at our school, is that there's a little bit of this, like they're in competition with each other versus empowering each other and supporting each other. Whereas guys are just like, Matt, let's go. I'm great. I'm great. I'm going to be in the NBA. I'm going to be in the NFL. And girls are a little bit like, oh, she's better than me. And it's a little bit more passive that way. And so really helping them to go, you go watch each other play. You go support each other. You go tell each other how great you are. And then in turn, if someone says something to you that's not right, don't listen or respond appropriately. So Gloria was a really big eye opener for our girls when they're like, she didn't let these guys tell her how to feel. She was telling them what was going on. Again, it was pretty magical and pretty powerful. She doesn't realize how powerful she was in that moment, but she was really good for our girls to hear, like somebody that was teaching in 1940 didn't stand down to any group of people if she believed something was right. So it was amazing. That was probably my highlight of 2022, is listening to her talk and being inspired by a female that didn't seem to back down to anybody.
Boy, I'm going to put you on the spot now. I want to do a full length interview with you and her
Okay.
somewhere here in 2023. So I'm going to ask you to, help make
She'll
that
hate it,
happen.
but it'll be great.
Oh no, I think it'd be fantastic. Suzanne, looking at what you've already done with your group, other projects that you're involved with, which are, they need another episode. Where do you see this leading? And maybe even more important than that, what are some things that other athletic directors, need to know?
Where do I see it leading? Our audience for this event that we're doing in February is former, future, and present athletes. So we want to really bring in the second grader, the fourth grader, the sixth grader, our eighth graders who are on our campus, and bring them in to get this message going sooner. And then bringing our alumni and our former athletes back to really be a help in that space and to share some of their stories and how they wish they may have done it different. So that's where it's going. I hope we just continue. And then each meeting that we have the first Wednesday of every month is, they think of things and they're like, well, let's do this and let's do that. They want to go, like one day we played cornhole. Like, can we just play a game? They just want to talk. They just want to sit and talk with each other. And I love that. Like, that's important. It's about building community. That was the other thing Gloria really spent a lot of time talking about, was community, and the community that they had back then. After a game, they all went and ate at someone's house, after spouses, coaches, everything. And I think the world was probably a little bit more simple back then, without the social media influence, without everything else that our kids are having to focus on and deal with. They just focused on each other. And so really building a community of girls and women in sports. Hopefully that will happen through this event and then all the way through the year. And where will it go? I don't know. The future is untold. But I think one thing that at least my male colleagues are struggling with is like, how could I do this? Some girl doesn't want to listen to me as a man leading this. And I think honestly they do. I think that choosing to talk, choosing to listen, and then setting a plan of what they need. Like, don't just go do what you think they want. Like, have a conversation. Who are your leaders, your female leaders? Your coaches can identify those people if you don't know who they are, and be like, I want to support our female athletes. What are you feeling? Is there a space that we got to get better? They're going to tell you. They're going to tell you straight out, like, girls aren't supported as much. There's not as much social media. There's, like, whatever that looks like, they're going to tell you. And then create a plan that works inside your system. Like, we had to find a plan that worked in our system. Like that Wednesday, because we have a late start, that works into our system. To do something at 2:30 in the afternoon doesn't work for most people because somebody's practicing. But nobody's practicing at 7:30 on Wednesday mornings. The only downside for me on that time is that our coaches if our coaches teach in our building, they're obligated to be in meetings. So they don't get to be part of that. It really has built relationships with kids that I knew them, but I didn't really know them. Listening to their voice and what they're doing. They're powerful and they're impactful and they're smart. And not only are they smart, they're wise. So I would just really encourage anybody listening, set up a meeting, have some questions, and just listen. How can I support you better? How can we move this so that you feel like your voice matters? And what do you want it to look like? How great can we make this? How great can this be? Because it should be. You know what? These girls are awesome. And I'm super excited I get to support them. I am by far from perfect. But I do press in and go as hard as I can every day I can to advocate for kids and empower them to live inside their passion.
Yeah, you brought up a good point about, the challenge for, a male coach to have some of these conversations. But again, it goes back to, any coach building that coaching relationship. You're the coach, you got the student athletes, and 100 years ago when I was in high school, I mean, it was X's and O's, and you liked your coach or your coach might like you, but we didn't go into any of this stuff, and we've gotten much better since then. So again, for those coaches and ADs that are listening, continue to build and create that relationship with student athletes so that they can perform better, but also because it's the right thing to do, to help these kids grow in any way that you can help them.
And we, if we're doing it right, we're serving 50% females. So if you're not asking the question, you're not doing your job. Like, we have to figure out how to serve both populations well. And so I'm really excited about what we've got going on right now. It was probably that meeting on Wednesday just led me through the day. It was really inspiring, and it's a fun project to have. And it's a really important project to have.
Oh no, absolutely. Gosh, you're making me wish I was out there on the West Coast. Suzanne, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain about this program or about any of the things you do, and listeners, you've got a tremendous resource here. What's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Probably my email is going to be the best. It is, so it's SVick, V as in Victor, ICK, at UPSD, and that stands for University Place School District, the number 83.org. So it's SVick at UPSD83.org. But I'd love to help in any way that I can. I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to try to find them.
Right. And for our NIAAA members, Suzanne's information's on the NIAAA portal. She's also fairly active on Twitter, and you can also find her on LinkedIn. So
Our Viking Nation is all our social media accounts. So jump in, come join us.
Oh, no, absolutely. Suzanne, always great to spend time with you in person or virtually. Thanks so much for sharing today, and all the best in the coming 2023 school year.
Absolutely. Thanks a ton for having me. Happy New Year. Go crush it inside your retired life. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You betcha. Have a great day.
For our listeners, remember, we do this every week, and the episodes get uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on Wednesday Wisdom, and just about every day with new content on the Educational AD Podcast. Have a great day. Before we go, we want to give a shout out to all of our sponsors. Every single one of these sponsors I used as a coach or an AD, and they're just fantastic. Now, there was one exception, Hometown Ticketing. Hometown Ticketing was just coming into fashion as I was retiring. So I didn't get a chance to use it, but I've talked to athletic directors across the country who swear by it. So I have no problem recommending Hometown Ticketing. And I know many of the people in their staff. So that's hometownticketing.com. Simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor scoring tables and video boards. We've got one in our gym. It gets used just about every day for a home game, for a pep rally, or for a signing ceremony. You can buy now, pay later. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and see what they can do for you and your program. Athletic surveys by LifeTrack. In my school, we use surveys for just about everything. And the information that came back was just tremendously valuable. The anonymous surveys from kids, student athletes, from parents, they're going to tell the truth, and the information that it gives you, again, just very valuable. Go to athleticsurveys.com and see what they can do for you. We want to say thanks to Gipper. Gipper.com allows you to create custom content for your school's social media channels, and you can do it in seconds. Go to Gipper.com, tell them you heard about it on the podcast, and use our code ADPOD10, get 10% off. I want to thank Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle. As an athletic director, our school was a Huddle school. Go to Huddle.com and find out what they can do for you and your coaches. We want to thank Snap Mobile. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their entire suite of platforms. We use SnapRaise, their fundraising platform. It was so easy. It was so effective. And they've helped schools just like yours raise tons of money. Go to snapraise.com and check out their entire platform. We also want to say thanks to Final Forms. Final Forms is the official registration platform for the FIAAA's annual conference, but they can help you as a high school AD as well. They can help with eligibility, with rosters, with reminders for parents, with communication for coaches. Go to finalforms.com/Jake for more information. And finally, we want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for the coolest way to display your school's record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. You can also email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com for more information. Thanks again for listening to today's Wednesday Wisdom. Come back next week and just about every day on the Educational AD Podcast. Have a great day.